Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield audio podcast.
It is time to back the Kurds. This is a cry that I have been issuing as I've testified before Congress, as I have spoken to our leaders behind the scenes, as I have spoken in churches and at universities and at corporate settings, and of course, everywhere that I can on social media. It is time for the United States to back the Kurds. I was grateful as I listened last night to Barack Obama call for humanitarian aid in the wake of the ISIS crisis in the Middle East, and also to back the Kurds. And I believe that that is a move in the right direction. I know many of my friends are saying that it's too little too late, but it's not. It's not too little, and it's not too late. However, the United States has been on a flawed path, or perhaps I should say on a path to a flawed foreign policy for quite some time. And maybe this can be the turning point. Maybe out of this horrible advent of the Islamic State of Iran and Syria, ISIS it's called, the absolute butchery that they are engaged in the Middle East, we can see some victory, something positive, something perhaps dawn on the understanding of those who guide our foreign policy in Washington, D.C. As you know, if you've been listening to me for any period of time, I am a strong advocate for the Kurds. The Kurds suffered horribly, really since World War I under various regimes, were butchered by the hundreds of thousands under Saddam Hussein. The United States did very little. In fact, we often bartered the Kurds away in various deals. We were so angry about the Iranian takeover of our embassy back in the late 70s, and we wanted vengeance against Iran, that Iran loomed so large in our minds, was so much our enemy, that our foreign policy involved strengthening Saddam Hussein and his regime as a hedge against Iran. This was even during the Iran-Iraq War, which was a horribly bloody and absolutely useless war. The U.S. gave satellite positions. The U.S. sold arms to both sides, actually, but the U.S. definitely favored Saddam Hussein. And we paid for it. We paid for it in eventually having to go in and depose this dictator. We paid for it in American lives of young men and young women. We've paid for it in millions of dollars. So I'm hoping that the current ISIS crisis, and I'm sorry that that rhymes because it makes it sound trite, but that's not what I intend, that this current crisis is causing America, the United States, and its foreign policy leaders to realize that the people we ought to be backing in the Middle East, other than Israel, are the Kurds. In the northern part of Iraq, as I've explained before, but let me do it again briefly, are a group of people who are not Arabs. They are the descendants of the ancient Medes, more related ethnically to the Persians than they are to Arabs. They're not Arabs at all. They have lived a unique history. We see some of that history in the Bible, of course, wherever the Medes are mentioned. And we also see that history more recently as they have sort of been ground underfoot by the various regimes that the European powers put in place in Iraq after World War I and then in the years since. The U.S. has been blind to the cause of the Kurds, the virtues of the Kurds, for a variety of reasons, most important of which, of course, is their unswerving attempt to check Iran by propping up Iraq. But of course, propping up Iraq meant propping up Saddam Hussein, whom we now view as a madman and a butcher. The Kurds are a gentle, moderate Muslim, pro-democracy, pro-America, pro-Israel people in the Middle East. I've spent many months there, as I've reported before. There is a Christian department. There is an Yazidi department in the government. Jews live unmolested. Women walk the streets without burqas. There are women on the Supreme Court. I could go on and on and on. The Kurds, who have sometimes been seen as the hillbillies of the Middle East, have built an amazing little independent region in the north part of Iraq, while the rest of Iraq under the Maliki government has declined into absolute chaos, and its military has become a joke. The military wouldn't even stand and fight against ISIS. In the north, the Kurds, in the region I call Kurdistan, and I think we should start calling Kurdistan, again, pro-democracy, pro-American, pro-Israel. They have fierce fighters called Peshmerga. The name means those who face death. When the rest of Iraq has needed defense, they've called for the Kurds. They've called for the Peshmerga because they're amazing. They have built on economic principles in the north that would make a libertarian celebrate here in the United States. They've welcomed foreign investment. They've decided to treat foreign investors on an equal footing with domestic investors. They are prospering dramatically as a result, and they are also making very, very generous and very wise international deals for their petroleum. You can walk the streets of Erbil, a name you're now hearing a great deal in the news, and see 6-star hotels and first-rate restaurants and parks and hospitals and schools and shopping malls. And the people are a kind of moderate Islam in which they welcome other faiths, welcome internationals. It really is pretty amazing. It is time for the United States to back the Kurds. We're doing so now in the sense that we're protecting the north from ISIS with our planes, something that's long overdue. We are also providing humanitarian aid for the Yazidis. The Yazidis are a largely Kurdish subset religion. Some people consider them demon worshippers. That's not really true, but they do worship angels and revere various angels and spirits. So it's sort of a Christian cult, might be the way that most people would understand it in the West. Although I've been graciously hosted by them and been invited to their weddings and spent time with them, found them to be a wonderful and gentle and pastoral and very gracious people, very open to strangers. We simply have been backing the wrong people. We need to back the Kurds. There is a potential for a Kurdish nation, I believe, of Kurdistan very soon. I believe we should put a military base there. I believe that we should back them. It makes absolutely no sense for us to do all that we do to back Israel and then turn around and support Israel's enemies, a truth not lost on the Israeli leaders themselves. It's time for us to be consistent in the Middle East. It's time for us to stop supporting tyrants. Some of the people who most support ISIS are the Saudis and Turkey, two of our closest allies in the Middle East. We have got to be moral, we have got to be clear, and we have got to back those who are willing in turn to back us, to support us, and to stand with our allies in the region, which means Israel. There is actually an Islamic nation arising which is pro-Israel. Why wouldn't we back them? So it's time to back the Kurds. And as horrible as the ISIS insurgency is, and as much bloodshed as is taking place now, and as much as it has to be disappointing to most Americans that we are back again in the Middle East, we have no choice. There is a moral mandate, there's a humanitarian mandate, and there's the possibility to help give birth to a nation that will again be pro-democracy, pro-American, and pro-Israeli, and that cares for women, protects women, that welcomes other religions. In fact, Masoud Barzani, the current president of the KRG, the Kurdish regional government, has actually been given an award by the Pope for his willingness to welcome Christians into that part of the Middle East. It's time to back the Kurds. And I'm grateful that it seems like we're starting to do just that.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author and popular speaker who coaches and advises leaders worldwide. To learn more about Stephen, log on to stephenmansfield.tv. The Stephen Mansfield podcast is produced by Isaac Darnell, who also wrote and performed the Rockin' Podcast theme song. This is a Chartwell Literary Group production. Chartwell is ingeniously led by Beverly Darnell Mansfield. As a result, all rights are reserved. For more information, contact us through stephenmansfield.tv.